Because I still feel this tension. I've lived in the South my whole life, Mississippi and North Carolina. And I'm a big believer in the South and its current incarnation and where we're heading. Um, can we, for too much longer, be a region that's simultaneously a global cultural hub, but still fighting the historical battles over memory and identity? Does that lend a power to the South that perhaps, or is it something we're going to eventually have to get over?
I think we're going to have to get over it as a country. So I think
So not just the South.
not at all. I mean, I think American social memory, American cultural memory is very powerful. And a lot of times what happens, you were talking earlier about what do people misunderstand. I think sometimes in general, if you were to stereotype, right, you would say the South is racist, the North is maybe standoffish, the Midwest is very friendly, and right. So you like different regions have different stereotypes, and some of that is for a reason. Not all stereotypes are necessarily bad, and not all stereotypes are necessarily wrong. The South isn't the only place that has experienced some of these really painful things in American history. This is American history. This isn't Southern history. It happened in the South. Certain things certainly happened in the South, but slavery existed in the North. Slavery existed in part of the Midwest. The Midwest has had redlining, they've had sundown towns, they have had a very long history of what in the South would have been openly segregation, whereas in the Midwest it looked a little bit different. They have had a long history of similar laws to the South, and yet that's not necessarily something that is openly talked about. If you're going to talk about,
That's our bag to carry.
yeah, right. That's kind of the
Yeah.
Southern kind of existence. So again, Southern history is American history. So I think that the American public has to work through it together in order. We have to talk about what happened, and we were starting to do that. You saw, I think 30 years ago, 25 years ago, there was kind of this more open discussion on, well, slavery in this country looked this way. Chattel slavery looked like XYZ. And, there's always been, right? So like if you read stuff from the 1920s, there's kind of this like weird kind of, I don't want to say argument, but there's always been this kind of, well, some enslavers were better than others. If you look at Dixie, the song, the minstrel song from the 1850s, if you listen to it, it's literally about happy slaves. And now I think everyone would agree that that doesn't exist. You can't be in bondage. You can't be owned. Your soul cannot be owned by another human being and be happy. Maybe certainly were enslavers that were harsher than others, but you still own human beings. You are still owning someone's life. Chattel
The
slavery,
violence has been
the
downplayed.
violence has absolutely been downplayed, and I think we got to a point where things were starting to catch up, right, in terms of things were starting to be more open and people were talking about it more. I think during COVID, during all those riots, the George Floyd riots, my local Barnes and Noble completely sold out of books about racial oppression and understanding, black white relationships. The Barnes and Noble they had a whole table about that stuff, and people were reading it and they were interested in it, and they were, trying to understand how our system has been broken really from the beginning. And that doesn't mean it's doomed, right? So American history is amazing. It's amazing that you have a country or an area in which people who were not supposed to win won. And that's what happened with against the British, right? We weren't supposed to win. We shouldn't have. On paper, if you compare, you have, again, the largest military in the entire world. They're the best trained. They're the richest country. They have so many resources, and they somehow lost to people who didn't even have consistent uniforms. Some of the battles, they're throwing rocks at each other because they ran out of ammunition. It's wild. It's wild that they were able to win. And so American history is amazing. It's incredible. It's incredible that these people wrote these documents that are still used today. They made them so elastic that something from the 1700s can still apply 250 years later. That is incredible. However, there's also a dark side to what our history is. There's a dark side to what we've experienced. And I think the beauty in that, though, is that that's the American experience, right? So that is the true American dream, is that anyone can be anything. That's the argument, is that you can be from someplace where you've had a tough life or you've had a tough experience, and you can be resilient and you can resist, right? That's some of that is the Black experience. They rise out of chattel slavery through resistance, through I mean, they rise out of the people of color, right? That is kind of this quintessential American experience. This is the American dream in a way of they kind of come out of this darkness. And that's what the colonists did.
You can make that case here in the South with mass migrations
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
people from Appalachia to these growing cities.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tons of people
Yeah.
from the poorest parts of West Virginia, Kentucky,
Yeah.
Virginia, that kind of corner of Appalachia.
It's people wanting better, right?
Yeah.
It's people wanting
Yeah.
better for themselves. It's people wanting something different. It's people wanting, that again, that's this kind of, I think, wrapped up in this amazing history is there's a lot of pain there. And wrapped up in all this pain is this amazing culture that has come out of America, has come out of the South in particular, but has kind of risen out of this kind of dark, like, right? Like it's all intertwined. And so I think you can't say, will we ever understand Southern history, or will we ever come to talk about it? Because in order to talk about it, you have to talk about everything else. The Confederate flag flew over a country that supported slavery, but so did the American flag. And so you can't have one without the other. The Confederate flag has certainly been twisted now to represent something that is racist and something that is evil and hateful, stripping all of that away, stripping down what the representations now mean. If you look at historically, both those flags flew over countries that supported and had slaves. And so again, you have to look at everything all together, and we have to all talk about it. Someone from California has to understand why our laws are the way they are. And a lot of that has roots in the founding of this country, which I'm not going to just talk about people of color. Certainly it impacts people of color, but it also impacts women. It impacts white men. It benefits white men. But it's all wrapped up together, and it's kind of why you see so much of where we are today and why people are angry, why we've had so many riots recently. I think the past 15 years, and maybe I just am paying attention more because I'm older, but there have been lots of riots of people who are finally saying enough is enough. We need to talk about this. And historians are kind of bringing this to light. We've scaled some of that back. We're starting to swing back in the other direction, but I think we'll get there again.